Hello and welcome to the Business Channel in association with CIBSE, the Chartered Institute of Building Services Engineers. Today looking at refurbishing and retrofitting workspaces onto a lower carbon trajectory. The UK aims to lead the move to a low carbon economy in a coordinated drive to tackle both climate change and rising fuel prices. Reducing the amount of carbon that our buildings emit will go a long way towards meeting the 80% carbon reduction target by 2050. So what solutions are available and how effective are they in reducing the amount that we emit and the amount of energy we use? These are the issues that we'll be looking at in today's programme.
Our workplaces have quite an impact on the amount of carbon that we generate as a country. Buildings are responsible for nearly half of carbon emissions, and of that, slightly more comes from our homes than from where we work. But heating is the biggest single contributor to that. So anything we can do to reduce the amount of energy used on heating will help to cut our carbon footprint. Another significant impact of our buildings is the amount of energy and carbon associated with lighting. Lighting is probably the second largest contributor to office energy consumption. And with the advent of light-emitting diodes, LEDs for lighting, and there are a number of commercial systems now available, we're seeing quite significant cuts in the energy that's used in lighting and the carbon that comes from those lighting systems. And that's an area of really rapid change, and we can expect to see much more of that change over the next few years.
Retrofit is really important because most of the buildings that we see in the UK today are still going to be standing in 2050, and buildings are huge gas guzzlers of energy, and we need to reduce that energy use right across the building stock. So really big challenge, but that's more than a problem, it's actually an opportunity, because of course if we are successful in reducing that energy use, we'll not only reduce energy bills for the people working in those buildings, but we'll also create a huge retrofit market that could employ tens, if not even hundreds of thousands of people in that new emerging market.
Greenfield Energy is a technology company specialising in efficient renewable energy. They offer affordable, sustainable, environmentally friendly space heating and cooling systems for commercial and public property. I spoke to Director Graham Newton about Greenfield Energy's geothermal energy technology, GeoScart.
We specialise currently in the supermarket business in terms of managing their thermal energy. Now that management of thermal energy applies equally across the entire built environment. So we have aspirations to move on from our starting point with supermarkets and grow sector by sector into the general built environment.
Now you have this technology which you've called GeoScart technology. Now what does that word mean and what is it?
Well, the GeoScart technology is primarily accessing what is termed low enthalpy geothermal energy. We're effectively using the top 200 meters of the ground beneath the property as a giant heat exchanger, if you will. We manage thermal energy by integrating the thermal needs of the building, both heating and cooling, and integrating that through a fluid loop or a circulation through boreholes in the top 200 meters of the geology. So we have one effective integrated thermal energy management circuit, which delivers very significant cost savings, significant carbon reduction savings. The installations that we have monitored to date are showing a 30% energy and therefore 30% cost savings of the entire or the total energy bill of the supermarkets that are installed. In terms of what it costs, we deliver that, as I've said, under a long-term sustainable 25-year contract. So Greenfield Energy provides the finance to actually install its technology in return for a 25-year lease arrangement with the client.
Now, is it something that's only suitable when you're building, say, a new supermarket, or can it also work in a retrofit or a refurb?
Very much so. In fact, our original design concept was aimed at the retrofit market, the existing building stock market. And one of the limiting factors of the deployment of low enthalpy geothermal technology has historically been a large requirement of land surface area to construct and install a borehole field. What Greenfield Energy has done is brought to bear some oil and gas technology whereby we have redesigned the borehole heat exchanger, reduced its number by a factor of 10, and we angled the boreholes utilizing what's called directional drilling technology. So we use a minimum amount of surface footprint for the maximum amount of exposure to the geology beneath the property.
Now, your customers, they wouldn't want to buy any piece of equipment that breaks down, but of course for you that's extra important.
Absolutely, yes. We not only have a 25-year relationship with them, we have a 25-year obligation for operability of that system. And adjoining that, we also have a performance element to that relationship, which again adds to the sustainability of the entire process. So not only do we build, own, operate, we are also putting our money where our mouth is in terms of performance that the client derives in terms of energy savings.
We're starting to see people think much more about how buildings will use energy and how they will perform. So people are beginning to think about what direction the building faces, and they're beginning to think about how the sun hits the building, how much sunlight gets into the building and in summer heats it up. And people are beginning to think much more about what we call passive design of buildings, so that you're making the most of energy gains from outside the building and you're trying to minimise the losses from within the building to the outside.
CIBSE are the world leader in motor and control solutions for openings and closures in residential and commercial buildings. They've developed solar shading solutions for the commercial sector, which give added value to building developers, owners, tenants and users, with a range of benefits from helping to reduce CO2 emissions to visual and thermal comfort. I spoke to CIBSE CBS manager Ty Saville about how they help reduce carbon emissions and how education and innovative technologies are key to moving forward.
In the UK, we have a division called CBS, which is Commercial Building Solutions, which is all defined around educating the marketplace in what solar shading can bring to buildings. In history with the building industry, a lot of engineers and specifiers have used processes from the past instead of using innovative new technologies that perhaps could help reduce carbon footprints of buildings. We, as the CIBSE, have to be in the marketplace showing these people what can be done instead of using what's been done in the past.
And so fitting your products, what kind of impact would that have on the carbon footprint of a building?
With CIBSE products, we reduce the loads on the big factors in the building, which is heating and ventilation and lighting. And through dynamic facade management, which is automation of the facade, we can reduce the loads on those parts of the building. In the past, what we've done is there's been a lighting control system and a heating control system. To meet the new directives by 2020 to reduce the carbon footprint of buildings, we must integrate these systems so each system knows what each one is doing.
How do you think buildings will be different in 5 to 10 years' time?
What we've seen in the marketplace recently is a shift towards new types of products, especially facade products, new types of materials that are more energy efficient. There will be an innovative approach to controls, making controls more intelligent, understanding what the necessities of tomorrow, setting the building up and reducing energy in being predictive rather than being reactive. The systems will be looking at weather forecasts from the internet and then proceeding down its control algorithms using that source of information. From a previous day, we may have collected a lot of solar radiation in the building, and instead of flushing that solar radiation out, we'll hold on to that solar radiation for the next day, depending on how cold or hot the day will be.
Now, how can you facilitate CIBSE members meeting the objectives in their work, mainly of reducing energy use and reducing carbon emissions?
I think a key way there would be for us to educate the CIBSE members on new products from Somfy and also new products that are developed by our customers. You must remember that Somfy doesn't manufacture solar protection, we only manufacture the motor. So it's key for CIBSE members to know us, for us to introduce them to other key players. And also we do services whereupon we have a new solar path analysis service whereupon CIBSE members could come to us and we do a sun path analysis of the building to understand if solar shading is the best way forward.
What do you think that the government could or should be doing to enable a lower carbon economy?
Well, I think the government does quite a lot so far, however it could do more. Its biggest job is to set the frameworks for the manufacturers and the construction industry to work in. New products in the marketplace could reduce costs further. You must look at the European market where external sun shading is a norm. If you look at most commercial buildings in Europe, you have external sun shading, which has been happening for years. However, in the UK, this is not the case. Due to how our buildings have been built, it's always been internal sun shading rather than external sun shading, which is much more efficient.
When you're looking at how to make a building greener, it's really important to think first, not just what are the physical improvements that we could do to this building, but actually how are we using this building? A lot of the most cost-effective ways of reducing energy are actually through low or even no-cost measures. So it's actually about how the building managers are managing the building, how the occupants are behaving in the building. Those behavioural aspects are really, really important. Also, how the actual equipment that is already in place is performing is really important. Are we getting the most out of particular bits of kit and particular bits of technology?
Control systems can have a huge impact on the way a building works. Unfortunately, we see far too many examples of buildings where the controls appear to be an afterthought. So for somebody who is thinking of either having a new building built or a refurbishment, one of the key questions to ask the people who are working for you is all around controls. You want to be able to control it, and you want the people who run it day to day, who may not necessarily be engineers, you want them to understand what they've got to control and how to do it, because if they understand it and they're comfortable with it, they'll do it. If it's complicated and they don't understand it, then things will default to on, and the finance director will be complaining about the energy bill again.
Titan Products is a privately owned manufacturer and supplier of environmental sensors and control products to the HVAC and building management systems industry. They offer products which can maximise the energy efficiency of a building. I spoke to Managing Director Jim Barlow, who told me more.
You can have the most efficient fan or chiller or boiler, but without controlling it to its design criteria, you will not maximise the energy efficiency of that particular product. Every control element should be designed and performed to what's classically known as demand control. When the demands are high, you deliver those demands. When they are low, you deliver those demands. So demand control can be in all aspects of the environmental measurement. By controlling the ventilation and the heating and cooling cycles on demand, you will maximise the energy efficiency, reducing fan speeds, reducing heat input, switching off lights. Through our knowledge and applications knowledge and experience, we can design the control algorithms that would match those needs.
Now, just to make it real for people watching, I mean, do you have a case study of, say, how much you've saved a company through one of your products or something like that?
We did a small project with a fume cupboard manufacturer where they needed to control the main extract system at Manchester University. They had a variety of fume cupboards, quite a large installation, where each area and each laboratory was creating variable demands on the central ventilation plant. By monitoring the performance and demands by the fume cupboards as they came online and offline, we then summated the condition required and adjusted the main supply and extracts from a summation algorithm which we developed. We got the fume cupboard manufacturer to install the summation unit, and they saved an estimated 70% of their energy over the weekend trials compared with the weekend before when the product wasn't installed. So simple things like that, summating the demand of an installation can reduce the energy consumption drastically.
And you do bespoke your products to a certain extent?
I think Titan products, although they have a full range of standard products available, which can be tailored and tweaked to meet clients' specific needs, we can work quite closely with designers, the manufacturers, the building occupiers, to make sure that the end product and the system is designed to maximise the all-important energy efficiency. I think the future, as the demands for improved energy efficiency are placed upon the building designers, it's going to be vitally important to encapsulate and capture the technology that's available and use that technology to spearhead the requirements to meet those new regulations.
We're seeing some interesting innovations in the way that buildings are being engineered at the moment. There are some obvious external ones. We see a lot of modern buildings which have steel frames and lots of glazing, and not so much of the more traditional materials and looks. But there's quite a lot of innovation happening inside buildings. For example, lighting systems in buildings are changing dramatically. The introduction of light-emitting diodes, LEDs, are having a really big impact on the way that we light buildings.
One Electrical are a brand of wiring accessories and lighting based in Manchester, selling to the wholesale trade. They offer a comprehensive range of the latest LED lighting technology and a groundbreaking LED lease scheme, which is aimed at making LED retrofitting accessible to all companies who want to reduce their carbon emissions.
The main benefit that we try and get across to people is the energy efficiency, because with the efficiency not only comes a reduction in consumption of electricity, but it's the reduction in your electricity cost at the end of the year. So apart from the energy efficiency, you have the guaranteed lifespan of the product, which we offer a 2-year warranty on that. Beyond the 2-year warranty, we actually expect it to last up to 50,000 hours, which can really extend to 15 to 20 years depending on the usage of the lamp per day, per year, etc. of the person.
Now, we do have LED lights in our homes now, as you say, but are most of your products used in the commercial sector, or where are they used?
Probably 50-50 really. People are just sort of recognising it as a possible install in their house. It did take a few years for people to accept them as a real replacement. People were unsure about whether they give off enough light, whether they would be worth the investment. So that's on a domestic, and on a commercial, it's the same decision. Are you going to be happy to put the capital up to wait for the return on your investment? But a lot of businesses are costing on now because it is a huge expenditure, their electricity bills on an annual basis.
Now, talking about whether they emit enough light, now there are some sectors, I'm thinking particularly of retail showrooms, that really don't want to break away from the halogen lighting. They feel they need a certain quality of light to sell things.
Yeah, LED now offers a direct replacement. There's different colour temperatures you can choose from. So in halogen you've just got the sort of golden glow. With the LED you can have a daylight colour, a cool light colour, warm glow. And also with LED, when you do actually dim them, they have a certain colour rendering index which stays consistent throughout dimming, so they offer that advantage as well. And also the heat is nowhere near as much as the halogens, obviously in museums or galleries, etc. There's no damage caused to the item it may be pointed on.
Well, I'm joined now by the company's other founding director, Rob Chadwick. Hello to you.
Hello, Sarah.
Now, we've talked about energy savings that LED bulbs and products can give. What about cost savings?
Right, well, with the longer life expectancy, lamp replacement costs and maintenance costs are also significantly reduced. We've supplied street lighting to car parks before, where you'd usually have to hire a cherry picker, and lamp costs are actually expensive in the traditional type of lighting. So the cost of replacing one of those light bulbs is quite expensive. In fact, the savings they were going to achieve through maintenance cost reduction were greater than the energy savings.
Now, what about the long payback periods? And also the upfront costs are more, aren't they?
LED products are more to buy in the first place, but what you really need to consider is the savings that you will achieve over the product's lifespan. The payback period varies between application. In a commercial premises where the lights may be running 24 hours a day, the payback can be less than a year. The typical factory size, you could be getting savings of about £90,000 per year. Other premises where they may be only 12 hours a day, you're looking at about a 2-year payback period.
So given the current economic climate, do you find that that initial outlay is a real stumbling block for clients?
Whilst the payback periods are relatively short and our products are very competitively priced, initial upfront costs can be expensive due to the nature of the LED products. In that case, we do offer an alternative. We offer a LED lease scheme, which we feel is quite innovative in the marketplace. We're not aware of anybody else who actually offers it at the moment. It means that there's no capital expenditure for the client. Basically, they can get our LED products installed with no upfront costs. It means the saving from month one. The monthly leasing cost is significantly lower than the energy saving, so they get a net monthly cash gain in their overheads.
And have you found many people have gone for that? Is that an attractive option?
Yeah, it's very attractive. Obviously, there's the benefits that there's no upfront cost, the saving from month one, there's no payback periods. Additionally, there's great PR from having our LED lighting. There's the green initiatives, sustainability. If there's a group of companies, say multi-chains around the country, they could do a full refurb programme.
Refurbishing a building poses a number of engineering challenges, and it's important that people understand the building that they've got initially, because there's only so much that you can do. So it's important to get good advice on what is realistic in your particular building at an early stage.
There is this debate about whether we should have a sort of big hit and do deep renovation on a building, or whether we should have more of a rolling programme. I have to say I sort of favour the sort of rolling programme whereby you would do the most cost-effective measures first, and then over a period of time you'd go back to do perhaps the more disruptive measures when new technologies come on board or when new business models emerge. I think that's probably the way to have a really planned programme of retrofit up and down the country.
We help businesses and public sector organisations to implement energy efficient solutions. So we help them overcome some of the barriers that are stopping them from taking those projects forwards now, and also help them find finance to make those projects happen. The paybacks do vary significantly across these projects, but typically we would expect to see paybacks of between 2 and 4 years. So they are very attractive projects for businesses to be investing in, and often this equipment will last for 5, 10, 15 years. So using financing for these projects is very attractive for organisations, because we can match the financial monthly repayments for the capital investment to the energy savings on a monthly basis. So there's no impact on the cash flow of the business, perhaps even cash flow positive from investing in energy efficient equipment.
Market leader Dane is a globally active family-owned electro-technical company specialising in lightning and surge protection. They focus on a number of sectors and future-oriented markets such as photovoltaic, wind energy, biogas, transport, telecommunications and process industry sectors. I spoke to technical manager Mike Forsey about the importance of lightning and surge protection, particularly for new sustainable technologies.
We cover lightning protection, surge protection, very, very active in the standard. So where there's a standard that covers the necessity, we will look at what's required, we will produce, we will test, and we will make sure that the standard can be implemented.
Now, we understand what a lightning conductor is, but what is surge protection? Where would a surge come from?
It's always really been assumed that you look at the structure only. It's very, very important that not only the structure, you need to look at the electronics inside. And nowadays, as things get more and more sensitive electronics, it's very important you protect the electronics. Downtime is important, it's very costly. And so the electronic protection is a very big part of the standard nowadays.
Now, how often would we expect there to be a surge or a lightning strike? I don't think I've ever been in a company where all the lights have gone off because there's been a surge.
There's many, many thousands of strikes a day, but you never see them. And not only generated by lightning, generated by switching, heavy lights, heavy machinery, and all of these will degrade the electronics. So it actually happens many, many thousands a day, but you don't see a direct consequence until your company stops working.
Now, how do you protect sensitive electronic equipment from surges?
You divide everything into zones. So say this building that we're in now, we divide it into zones, and where a cable comes in that can bring the lightning strike in, we say where it comes through the first zone, we'll fit surge protection equipment. And then as we go further into the building, we'll fit surge protection equipment at subsequent zones. The important part, and especially the important part under the standard, is that that surge protection is coordinated.
Now, how would you protect systems that are outside of the building, such as photovoltaic arrays or even control equipment?
Where you've got sustainable equipment, again, it's going to be very, very sensitive. So you need to protect not only the electronics, but the structure and the mounting. So where you've got photovoltaic, you protect the structure, the electronics within the structure, and coordinate the two together. So it's a logical approach, it's a coordinated approach, which is outlined very, very extensively within the standard.
Now, CIBSE members are at the forefront of making buildings more safe, energy efficient and more sustainable. And how can you help them to achieve those objectives?
Really help by education. We give regular seminars, regular workshops, group discussions. We will explain about the standards, what's required, and not only what's required, but how you will practically apply the principles to the structure and the electronic protection. And we also can ensure that the CIBSE members, they get full information from us, because we have a very comprehensive technical literature. We have a website where they can access all the latest protection methods and means of fitting the equipment, installation instructions, backed up by full technical support over the phone, both in the UK and Germany.
What do you have in the way of new products in the pipeline?
We're continuously looking at new products because, again, as industry goes forward, new sustainable products, we need to make sure that we can protect them and that they're covered under the standard. So we have quality managers, and they work in industry, they look at new sustainable systems, and they look at the potential problems and then how we're going to protect against lightning and surges. We have one of the largest laboratories in private hands in Europe, and so not only do we develop and manufacture equipment, but we can test it as a whole. So let's say we've got a photovoltaic system, we can actually test that photovoltaic system in a full live situation with the surge protection fitted, and we can monitor the results.
I think the biggest change that we need to see in the way that our building stock runs is not actually in the way we build it or the equipment we put in it. It's in the way we manage it and the way we control it. If we did that much better, we could cut UK energy use by anything from 10 to 20%. And when you look at some of the concerns around keeping the lights on, about having enough energy to go round in a few years' time, I would argue that how we manage our buildings and how we use energy in them ought to be a much, much higher priority than it currently is.
Knowledge is power, so all sectors must educate themselves about the solutions available to reduce energy usage. With a concerted effort and a clear vision involving all parties, significant reductions can be made. And reducing the CO2 that buildings emit can begin today with simple but highly effective changes. Just by adapting the way we use and manage our workspaces can help bring us closer to meeting the carbon reduction targets. Refurb and retrofit are key to helping us achieve the challenge of changing the way we all work and live. Well, that's all we've got time for at the moment, but if you'd like to hear more about any of the organisations that we've featured, then look at our website, thebusinesschannel.tv. Bye-bye for now.